We are in a depression right now, but the only reason it's not called that is because the wealthy people are wealthier than they've ever been. It's not a depression for the rich people are doing great. During the Great Depression, the average cost of a home was about $4,900, which today is equivalent to about $90,000. It was around 3 times the average person's wages. Today, in 2026, the average cost of a home is around $410K, which is about 8 times the average person's wages. This is not accidental. This is not just inflation. This is deliberate overpricing by wealthy people so that they could get extra profit into their pocket. And you know what? That's working really well for them, because back in 1985, I think there were only about 9 billionaires in the US, and now there are over 1,000. And we're even on track to have our first trillionaire. Can you imagine such an unfathomable amount of wealth? The thing is, you can't. Just how unimaginable is that? Let's put it this way. If you counted one number per second, it would take you about 31 years to count to a billion if you were counting nonstop. To count to a trillion, it would take you 31,000 years. Meanwhile, the average American makes $66K a year. 1 in 4 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and it costs about $159K a year to live comfortably. Believe me, we are in a depression, but it's not called that because we don't control the narrative.
Yeah, 31,000 years to count to a trillion. That is crazy. And also, I do agree that it's not seen as another Great Depression because the rich are still just as rich as they were, and the gap between them and the common people is becoming much bigger, you know what I mean? And like how buying a home used to be 3 times the average income of one person. Now it's like way higher than that. And also, I'm in California, right? They're going by logic that homes are 400K. Every home in my area, or like every home here, or in this area that I live in, like California, it's like a million and up. And it's not even like for huge houses or nothing crazy like that. It's just regular like 2-story houses, one story houses, like in the high, like in the low millions. It's crazy. But let's get into the next video. You know what I'm saying?
At number 3, we have this one right here. I'm quite fond of it personally because I like how all of the basic human necessities got expensive as fuck. And literally the only things that got cheaper were TVs. It's like, why are we even alive at this point? At number 2, we have this one right here. I'm personally fond of it because I like how it's purple, and I like how it goes super high at the end. Because I like being dominated by the stinkiest, wrinkliest old man. At number 1, we have a new proletarian classic. Me personally, I'm quite fond of it personally because I like how it looks, for one, and then for 2, it's like the rich don't even really need us to prop up the economy because they have so much money, they could just do it themselves, and they worked really hard for it. So it's good.
Okay, let's look at the first graph, right? First graph, everything going up except TVs. Pretty much, like, that's actually crazy. That's horrible. You see that number right there? Overall inflation, 92%, right? Horrible looks. And the percent of Congress being up, all the way up, over 70%. Tell me why old ass people are in charge of what, like, basically our future and our present. You know what I mean? Like I'm 17. You're telling me people who are like 50 years older than me are gonna control and make decisions that could affect the next like 50 years of my life. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Like, why? I feel like there should be like an age cap, because it's like at this point you are not the demographic that you are like trying to control their lives. You know what I mean? You're no longer that demographic anymore. You're too old. You're past your prime. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't be in control of the people younger than you's lives, especially when there's that big of a disparity that you're out of touch with like their lives.
The reason that people feel broke today is because the purchasing power of our dollar from 1970 to 2025 has declined by 87%. To put that into perspective, if you went over to your grandparents' house and dug up a time capsule in their backyard from 1970 and found a $100 bill, that $100 bill from 1970 would have to be about $800 today to have the same spending power. Another way to look at it is if your grandparents buried $1 million cash in 1970, they could have purchased 50 median homes in 1970 and built a real estate empire in cash, paid off, owned 50 homes. If they didn't invest the money and buried it in their backyard and you found it today, that $1 million can buy you 2 or 3 homes. But if they would have invested the $1 million over all these years, you would have a $20 million real estate portfolio that's paid off. But here's the interesting part when it comes to retirement for millennials and Gen Zs. And I don't want this part to depress anyone. I just want it to be for educational purposes. A boomer who has $1 million cash today in their retirement account, let's say they pull out $40,000 using the 4% rule. If we want the same spending power as 40K as the boomers have today, in 40 years, we're going to need $108,000, meaning we're going to need $2.7 million in our retirement to be equivalent to a boomer who has $1 million today. So if you're 30 and you want to invest for 40 years, we would have to invest $773 a month for 40 years, 8% return, let's say, reinvesting your dividends to end up with $2.7 million. So if you're not there yet and you can't afford that, start with 50 or $100, but we need to work our way up to have that kind of money. This is something that we need to think about for our futures.
Like, is that not crazy how if you found $100 bill back then, it's 100, but now to have the same spending power as a 100 is 8 times the amount? And you see how many homes you could buy back in the day with $1 million versus $1 million now? But I mean, obviously, income has gone up, but it hasn't gone up in relation, or like, it's also gone up with the relation of housing prices. But housing prices have skyrocketed while wages have like steadily like increased very little. You know what I mean? Isn't that crazy? And also, the 4% rule. I always hear about that, and like when talking about like retirement, yada yada. And I was like, that sounds about right, you know what I mean? But now when you put it like that, where it's 2.7 million you need to survive on the same amount of money or like spending power that they had in the past, like that's crazy to me. And look at this guy talking about 30 to 70 years old. So he's saying you can plan your retirement to retire at 70 years old. The average lifespan is not even 70 years old. Like, is that not crazy to think about? Like, you are like to think about your future, you're thinking of working past how long you're expected to live. Is that not crazy? Like, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, though. Like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.